Happy talking season, everybody. That's right. Conference media days are starting. It is time to actually talk football. Our long national nightmare of an offseason is almost over. It starts in Arlington, Texas at AT&T Stadium with Big 12 media days on Wednesday. Fascinating year in the Big 12. You go from a 10-team league to this year it will be a 14-team league because Texas and Oklahoma still have not left for the SEC. They're leaving after this year. But BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF are joining this year. So you have a preseason poll from the media who cover the Big 12 that gave 6 different teams first place votes. Texas, the overwhelming favorite with 41 first place votes, but defending champion Kansas State has 14. Oklahoma has 4. Texas Tech 4. TCU 3. TCU, by the way, played the national championship game last year. And Oklahoma State got 1 as well. This is a fascinating year in the Big 12 because one of the beautiful things about the 10-team Big 12 was it was a full round robin schedule. Nobody got to duck anybody else. But now we actually have to talk about who plays whom and when and where. Before it was just when and where. The other piece of this is there a significant motivation for the teams that were left behind in the Big 12, that were ditched by Texas and Oklahoma, to ensure that Texas and Oklahoma do not make their last shot at a Big 12 title game? We'll see what happens. It's a very diverse group that's made the Big 12 title game. Remember, it came back in 2017. 7 of the 10 Big 12 teams made the title game. West Virginia, one of the ones that didn't make it, almost made it in 2018. And that is with Oklahoma making it 4 times and winning it 4 times after it was reinstated. But the last 2 years, it's been new blood. It's been fascinating. You had the crazy Oklahoma State Baylor game. You had a great TCU K-State game last year. They would love that again. They would love some mix of those teams to be in there and not Texas and Oklahoma. So let's look at which teams might be able to make it back to Jerry World in December who aren't Texas and Oklahoma, because obviously everybody's favoring the Longhorns to make it there. They have not made it since 2018. They've not won the Big 12 since 2009, but they probably do have a big talent advantage compared to where they've been in past years. It's probably the most NFL talent they've had at Texas in one place at one time in a while. So yes, they're the favorite, but that doesn't mean they're going to win it, as recent Texas history has shown. So who among the non-Texas Oklahoma teams in the Big 12 has the best path, the best roster, and the best chance? I think we can break it down pretty easily. I don't know that we can put any of the new 4 teams in this hunt because we need to see that they are deep enough to compete week in and week out after jumping up in competition. I do think all 4 of those programs will eventually get to the point where they're very competitive in the Big 12. I think they can probably do it fairly quickly. I'm just not necessarily confident they're going to do it out of the gate. So I'm going to limit this to a few teams. We've got TCU, mentioned. They played for the national title last year, and they did lose 8 NFL draft picks, but very active in the transfer portal. They're going to be talented. Kansas State, 9 super seniors, including 3/5 of the offensive line. And oh, by the way, that doesn't include 4th-year senior Cooper Beebe, who is probably Kansas State's best NFL prospect. He plays left guard. So deep veteran offensive line, great start, veteran quarterback in Will Howard, and you won the league last year. Texas Tech, everybody's excited under Coach Joey McGuire. Tyler Shook comes back at quarterback. They won their final 4 games of 2022. Baylor, your 2021 Big 12 champ, they want to get back. They had an up and down season last year, but you think about the run-on, run-off field goal that TCU used to beat Baylor. They were in it against some of the better teams in the league. They can bounce back. The other one, you're going to be surprised that I'm putting them here, but if you think about the way things went last year and the way things have changed in the offseason, it makes more sense. Iowa State, I know they didn't get a first-place vote, but Iowa State lost 6 of its 8 Big 12 losses by 7 or fewer points last year. The defense was good. John Haycock's group was solid the entire season. The offense was not very good. They had a lot of turnovers. They fire offensive coordinator Tom Manning in the offseason. Nathan Scheelhaas, former Illinois quarterback, making me feel very old coming in as an offensive coordinator. But I think Iowa State could be a team that can make some noise in the Big 12 this year, at least in terms of deciding who's going to play for the Big 12 title. Maybe even if it's not the Cyclones, they might be knocking somebody out. But here's the thing. We got to figure out who plays whom. Like, of this group, who's got to play Texas and Oklahoma? There's only two of the teams that I just mentioned that have to play them both, and that is TCU and Iowa State. Iowa State's got to go to Norman. They get Texas at home. TCU gets Texas at home and also has to go to Norman. But where else do they have to go? How else does this work? TCU probably got the worst draw of this bunch because not only do they have to play Texas and Oklahoma, they have to play at Kansas State and at Texas Tech. And we all know weird things happen in Lubbock. So that's a tough draw for the Horned Frogs, especially with everything changing. So if you want them back in the Big 12 title game, they are going to have to earn it. Kansas State, meanwhile, they do have to go to Austin. They do not have to play the Sooners at all. Their trickiest spot, though, may be at Texas Tech. Remember, we said weird things happen in Lubbock, and then they turn around a week later on October 21st and have to play TCU at home. That is a tricky spot. The other really tricky thing about K-State's schedule, they get UCF's first Big 12 game. Now, they don't have to go to the Bounce House in Orlando. The Knights have to come to the Little Apple. But UCF, which has some very good players, played for the American Championship last year, is going to be healthy early in the season probably. They're going to come in wanting to make a point. So that's a tough one. But we'll see what happens. Texas Tech, we just mentioned who has to come to them. They've got to go to Texas on November 24th. That's going to be a big one. We mentioned TCU. What I didn't mention, TCU comes to Lubbock on a Thursday night, November 2nd. So you add the weirdness of Lubbock with the weirdness of Thursday night. That is a must-see game right there. And Baylor, they've got to play Texas and Waco. They do not have to play Oklahoma. They get Texas Tech and Waco also, but they've got to go to Manhattan on November 11th. So we shall see. This is going to be an absolutely fascinating season in the Big 12. I cannot wait to watch because I just mentioned all these teams. I have not said anything specifically about Texas and Oklahoma, but we should presume that both of those teams are going to be in the mix for the Big 12 title as well. I know conventional wisdom says that one of those is making the Big 12 title game, but I also know that everybody who was in the Big 12 when those two bailed wants to make sure they're not in that game. And then everybody who's coming into the Big 12, it's their only shot at them. And oh, by the way, either Texas or Oklahoma has to visit each of the new teams. So if you're sure that one of those two is going to make it, maybe hedge a little bit and look at these guys that have been in the Big 12 and are staying in the Big 12 who have a very good chance of playing for the title this season.